Welcome everyone to GivingData's new feature review. My name is Emily Kinkaid, Associate of Product Management. Whether you're a current user of GivingData or here to learn about what we have to offer, we are so excited to show you our latest new features and all of the enhancements we've been making to our product. I have with me here today Eric Jones and Astrik Tenney to share more about what we've been so busy developing. Eric Jones is our product manager and came to GivingData in 2019 with 20 years of experience in philanthropy. Astrik Tenney is Principal of Business Development, who came to us in 2021 after 12 years in philanthropy, including time as a GivingData user. Thank you all again for joining us today. And now over to Eric, who will take us through some background and framing.
Great, thank you, Emily. So as we all know, grant management systems have been around for a long time, and we've been calling them grant management systems because they were built to manage and process grants. But if you think about recent grants you have awarded or not awarded, did the process start when you received a formal application from a prospective grantee, or did it start when you had a conversation with a peer foundation, or did some research about an issue area in which you fund, or maybe you had a conversation with a potential grantee or someone in the community that your grantees serve? More and more, the grant making process is beginning earlier and earlier and including more methods of learning and gathering information, both informal and formal, that go beyond a written application. Now think about the systems that you are using to capture and document that part of the work. You probably use email for communicating with peer organizations or potential grantees, used Word documents or notepads to document and record notes from those conversations, and you probably created a spreadsheet or two to track early stage grant ideas. And on those spreadsheets, you may have added other information about a potential grant, like a grant amount or project title, and maybe a tentative grant term for those ideas. And since we have all that information on the spreadsheet, why not add the program budget so you can see how those early stage ideas play out against your grants budget? And for international funders that pay out in foreign currencies, you might have also built in some formulas to calculate exchange rates. Now, no one sets out to create shadow spreadsheets and shadow systems or store information that's important to the grant making process outside of their GMS. That isn't something that anyone plans to do, but it happens because grant management systems haven't been built to capture this part of the process. So all this important work and learning ends up being stored somewhere else. But what if there was a system that could capture all of this work from the very beginning? At GivingData, we've worked with forward-thinking foundations of all sizes to create grant making and grant management platform that supports philanthropy from those very first exploratory conversations through the entire grant making process. And so the new features and enhancements that Astrik is going to take you through today are designed to bring that work that is captured in shadow systems outside of GivingData or outside of your GMS into GivingData, so you can conduct more of your work in one place. Namely, new email functionality that allows you to initiate and carry out email communication from GivingData, personalized payments and approvals dashboards, and a scenario planning tool where you can enter early stage ideas into the system so that they can immediately be reflected in program allocations and budgets. And we will also introduce you to our new multi-currency tool that allows you to enter requests and payment amounts in foreign currencies and recalculate those amounts based on an exchange rate on the day you pay them or a different date. So now I'm going to turn it over to Astrik to demonstrate how these new features work.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric and Emily, for this great introduction to what we're going to see today. And I'm very excited to review those new and enhanced functionalities that we are now offering. So on the agenda today, we'll review the in-app email functionality, budget manager enhancements, introduce you to our personalized dashboards. We'll cover scenario planning enhancements as well. And of course, cover the multi-currency feature that we have added to our platform. So on to in-app email. What does this mean for our users inside GivingData? This story begins with this organization's record. So let's assume that I am a philanthropic professional and we are exploring a partnership with this organization, Arts Education Collaborative. There are no grants at this time and no information, but we've had an internal conversation about this organization and have determined that they could potentially be a good match for our funding. So I'll go to the interactions tab, and here you'll see add a new interaction and the new send email button. And just for historic purposes, we'll just add that new interaction, the internal conversation we've had before we move to the in-app email. And so let's just follow through the steps to add that interaction I've had with my colleague Eric about discussing this potential grant. And we'll save this interaction, and this creates a visualized timeline of the interactions now we're going to keep track of for this organization. Now on to the pièce de résistance, which is our send email feature. From here, regardless of the email client that you use, this feature gives you the capability to send emails to contacts within this organization directly from inside the system. So let's follow through that email journey, and I'll click to send email, and this email model will open up for you. And if you hover over the recipient list, that'll show you all of the contacts that are associated with this organization. And you can select one or all of those contacts to be part of this email conversation. So I've selected both of those contacts, added my message here, and notice that at the bottom of this modal, there's a place for attachments. And you have the ability with this email functionality to add organization level documents in this case, and to this organization. So if you've created a questionnaire, for example, you'd like them to complete before you're meeting with them, you can attach that from within GivingData as a document. And let's send this email now to Mark and Lily, who are the contacts in this interaction. Now, you might be wondering, what do recipients see on their end when they receive an email that was sent from within GivingData system? And we'll give you a quick preview here. Let's assume that they've received the email that I've sent them. And here is that email visualized inside their email server. And you can see that your organization's logo and the message shows up here inside the email. Now, what does that look like on this interactions timeline for you as the user? We can click to open this email interaction. You can see that email that I've sent here, and any responses that you receive back from the users, from Mark and Lily, will auto-populate inside that same interaction as an email thread, keeping your entire communication together. You can see who the participants were, when the original message was sent, and any follow-up messages that you received will auto-populate inside this email thread and keep all of those records together. Now, you have of course, the capability to continue that email conversation by replying to this message thread here, using this reply to this message thread link to continue to converse with them. Like with any other interaction in GivingData, separate from that email within the same interaction, you have the ability to insert staff comments and keep your collaborators or any colleagues informed about this interaction. So again, this is separate from the email thread. This is only for foundation staff, where you can add a comment. Here, I've tagged my colleague Eric to let him know that the meeting is going to be set for next week with this potential grant partner, and I can comment, and Eric will get notifications, be able to come in directly to this interaction and see that email thread. Again, this commenting feature is for internal staff. It's visible only to internal staff. So we've continued with that collaborative nature of the interactions while giving you the capability to send emails from within the system directly to your contact, bringing that work inside the system very easily for you to be able to access that functionality. So you can see how that capability, the send email capability, really centralizes your work in one place. Eric alluded to this in his introduction, how we aspire to bring your grant making work inside the system from those very nascent initial conversations. Now, stepping back for a second and thinking about how this potential grant to this organization that we're exploring at this time might fit into the overall organizational budget. And let's talk about the budget manager tool, which of course allows you to track your budgets inside the system. Let's consider that process of setting your budget inside GivingData. Now, we're always looking to for opportunities to improve the user experience, and the budget manager is where we saw an opportunity to enhance the design for our users. These enhancements we've introduced offer a very easier, cleaner way to toggle between payments and approval style budgets, and a simplified way to navigate through this budget setting page. So let's take a look at what that looks like here. For example, we've set the foundation's overall grant making budget is $9 million. And you can toggle between future years as well. So you can click to see 2023 budget as well and set that in advance if you have that already determined. And you can begin to set the programmatic sort of all of your budgetary fund levels with the funding amounts that you need to track. So here within programmatic grants, I'm managing the arts and culture budget. So I will set the budget for arts and culture here, save it. And you can also go even sub-funds for arts and culture, where you're able to very easily set the budgets for each of these sub-funds inside GivingData, and you can show how it shows how everything is assigned correctly and your budget is balanced here. So overall, it's an easier way to set, now that our budget is set here. As always, you can, of course, export that information to Excel. Now that our budget is set, we can go back to our dashboards. We can explore how this budget really ties into your dashboards to help you manage the overall organizational grant making budget inside GivingData. So, on to personalized dashboards. You asked and GivingData delivered. Welcome to GivingData's redesigned dashboard experience. You can now create multiple dashboards with personalized information that you need, and make those dashboards public or private to make them accessible to either yourself or other members of your team. And you can really zone in on the information that you want these dashboards to display. So let's walk through that journey here. I manage the arts and culture program at the foundation. And so for me, I've created this arts and culture dashboard budget with the relevant information that I need that gives me quick access to information to streamline my work. So to set this budget, I use the manage budget option. I've set my budget based on the specific codes in my budget to be able to display it by program areas, as well as subcodes in the program area as well. And that gives me access to this information. Now, a new enhancement in the dashboards is that you can actually create very personalized information, and even more personalization is introduced here, where you can actually filter information by additional criteria. Here, for this dashboard, for example, I've selected to see only grants that are assigned to me as the primary person managing that grant. So there's additional personalization that you can now do. We're filtering information that displayed on the dashboard to give you that personal dashboard experience. And of course, this dashboard is saved for me and I can view it every time I come into my dashboards. I can access it with just a click of a button. So what other things can you see here on this dashboard? You can see any request statuses that are grouped within this specific request. You can see them opened up here. I can also see this chart here. If I choose to view it by fund, I can see all of those sub-fund codes and how that information is visualized here based on those codes that I have within my budget. So that gives me quick access to information. And at the bottom of the page, of course, you can see the allocation summary for those sub-funds where you can track your budget and your balance for all of those, and it's visible to you. Everything's clickable and interactive as always, where you can click on those numbers and see the details behind those specific budgetary amounts. Now, because you have the ability to create multiple dashboards, I have also created a dashboard that gives me an overall view of the foundation's budget. And I've saved this dashboard for my reference as well. So stepping back from arts and culture, I, as someone who is working in arts and culture department every day, I'd like to have that overall view of the foundation and know on the sort of the overall level what our grant making looks like. So I've created this dashboard that gives me access to that information. I can view this as well by quarterly payouts and monthly. So you have that ability to drill down even further. And at the bottom of the page, of course, you again have your allocation summary available to you, but I'd like to see it also by programmatic areas and see how my department, arts and culture, compares to some of the other program areas that the foundation funds. So here I can select program area and I can see arts and culture and all of the other programmatic funds that gives me access to information and this global view. So that helps me with understanding the overall grant making budget and really helps to break down that siloing that can happen within organizations and creates those opportunities for collaboration and making sure that everyone is well informed on a global sort of scale, looking at the foundation's overall grant making operations. Good. So personalized dashboards are, this enhancements gives you the ability to create those personal dashboards, have the information at your fingertips very quickly, and have that you can create multiple dashboards, save multiple views, drill down by different types of information that you want to see to really create that personalized experience for you as the user inside GivingData. Moving on to now to scenario planning. Now, personalized dashboards, of course, give you a more personal scenario planning experience. So let's step back and think about what is scenario planning for those in the audience who may not be familiar with this feature. So scenario planning is a functionality that allows users to keep track of potential grants and existing commitments all in one place and helps you visualize the impact of those grants against your overall budget. So what does this mean in practice? Let's toggle down. First of all, you have the ability to toggle very easily to scenario planning from your dashboard. I am managing the arts and culture program, and my scenario planning for arts and culture is now connected directly with my dashboard. So I'll click on that to access my arts and culture scenario planning. And here I can see an overall view of 2 years. You can change this criteria to add multiple years if you need to. And I can see what are sort of those potential grants in the pipeline that are having an effect on my overall grant making budget. So with that, At the bottom of the page, you can access the information about those planned and existing commitments. And you can see that gives you additional information at a very high level, accessible through scenario planning for each of those requests that are planned in your budget. So coming back to our story of that potential grant that I had discussed with Eric at the foundation, let's assume that I am ready to add that potential grant into my scenario planning so that I can continue to refine that grant and see if there is a potential for moving forward with a grant. So I'll add, as always, you can add a new request very easily into the scenario planning. And here I'm going to select Arts Education Collaborative, the organization we mentioned earlier. I'll quickly define all of the criteria for this grant. And notice at the bottom where it says currency, I'm going to select United States dollar, but this is where you would be able to, and we'll touch on this in a little bit. This is where you'd be able to add any other currencies that you will be paying out in for that particular request. So I'm going to select United States dollar here, and the scenario planning gives me the opportunity now to set payments. And I think this might be a 2-year payment over 2 years. And I'll quickly put that in as a potential. Again, we haven't defined that this is going to be a grant. This is just an idea at this point, but I'd like to keep track of it in this sort of virtual interactive spreadsheet that I have. And you can see that idea here in my scenario planning list view. And at the top, I can see how that impacts my budgets for 2022 and 2023. Now, at this point, you might decide it's a little too early to really put them in my budget. I'd like to refine this idea and have more conversations with them to really understand the programs and their needs. So at this point, I'm going to select to exclude them from my scenario planning so that it doesn't affect my budget at this point, but it will still keep it in my scenario planning as an idea that I can make visible at a later time once I've had more information or have conducted my due diligence on this organization. So it's a tool that really helps you have that scenario planning and seeing how a different combination of grants can affect your budget for this year or future years. Now, with additional functionalities here, of course, you can see and continue to work on that specific request directly from scenario planning. As an example, notice the little notepad here. I can add request level notes, save it, and those notes will appear here, and I can access those notes here, but they are already in the request. In the request notes, they're already here. So you can continue to refine this idea, working from scenario planning from that central place and continue to see those notes and continue to refine this grant. And when you're ready, you can include it in your budget through scenario planning and continue that journey over grant. Maybe you invite them to a proposal, etc. So scenario planning really is a tool that supports all of your work inside the system. We all know how much you love those external spreadsheets. So we've actually brought them into GivingData, giving you a virtual and interactive way to plan your grants and have it all in one central place, with the ability to see the impact on your budget in this year or future budgetary years. Good. So let's move on to this multi-currency feature we've introduced in GivingData. I've touched on this already a little bit, but just to give you a quick preview of what that looks like inside our system, let's assume that we are going to add a grant through scenario planning that with the currency being the British pound sterling, and I've added the requested amount in pound sterling here. And I'm going to set the exchange rate as of it is right now. The scenario planning tool allows you, as you're planning for that payment, to set the payment from the day. However, when we go to the payment level for this, here it is, it's noted here when this grant will be paid and in what denomination. Now, with moving to that payment level on that organization's request page, notice how your information is displayed here. You can see the dollar amount and the British pound amount here. And when I'm moving this grant to be paid, you have the ability to select the exchange rate of a specific date. It could be your payment date or exchange rate of a previous date. And so you have the ability to set those parameters, and the exchange rate is automatically calculated in GivingData for you, making that work sort of no longer you have to do some work externally in a spreadsheet, do calculations. All of that is done within the system, all in one place. So you can see how these sort of enhancements, redesigned features and new features, the in-app email, the budget manager, personalized dashboards, scenario planning, and our multi-currency feature really help us capitalize on that idea of bringing your grant making work inside the system. As a foundation professional, this gives you a centralized place where you can do your work, and you can really utilize and maximize the use of GivingData as an organizational management tool, as a tool that can manage all of those features, including your grants management, including your planning, including your budgets, all in one place, really making GivingData what Eric referred to as a grant making platform, and really capitalizing on this idea of doing everything all in one place. So with that, thank you so much. I'll turn it over to my colleague, Emily.
Thank you, Astrik. And thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed getting a peek at the latest improvements to GivingData. As Astrik mentioned, I know we touched on a lot of topics, so please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. If you are not a client of GivingData and are interested in learning more about our product, please reach out to us via our website, givingdata.com. If you are a current client, please reach out to your client success manager for more information on any of the features we covered today. Thank you again for your time.